It is 8:39 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards along with Dave Bastl and joined by Perry Lefko here, who is going to talk about some really cool books. Now, look, he's written a lot of them. And I had forgotten about the Flutie book. Now, many people always ask down the line who your favorite athlete. For me, it's you've got two of them. You've got Doug Flutie and you've got Pinball Clemens. Now, I'm a CFL guy, so obviously there's a little bias. But when I think of what Perry is important to me, like so the magic of the athlete, the engagement that you have when someone is on the field, on the court, on the ice. I don't know if I've ever experienced what I did when Doug Flutie touches that football, because something that you never thought was going to happen probably is going to happen.
He was really fun to watch. Probably more than we'll ever realize, because when we went down to Buffalo, everybody went crazy about, Flutie Magic and Flutie Mania and the Flutie Flakes. We saw it here for 2 years, every single game. It was kind of like, it just goes back to that game that, when he had the Hail Mary. Okay, that was one single play. But if you take the body of all the plays that he had when he's here for 2 years, we saw that stuff all the time. It was great. It was fun.
It was, so unpredictable, and the times the naked bootleg stuff, or what he thought he could do, in his own mind. Now, keeping in mind, I only got a chance to interview him once, and that was on the Fan. It was so it was myself and John Derringer. That's how far back it goes, and I made him laugh, and someone wrote about it, and I'm trying to think off the top of mind who it was. But he said he made him laugh because Doug, especially in the Calgary years, he's incredibly focused, almost like a robot. Like he sees a situation and like, what was the game that Captain Kirk? Remember, there's that test, the Kobayashi, whatever that was, and Captain Kirk was able to. He actually changed the game so he could win, because no one's supposed to be able to win that scenario. That was Doug. Doug would take a scenario that was literally unwinnable and win it. It's just who he was.
He was, when I'm doing the book with him, he was very serious. He was very focused. But one of the things that I remember most about Doug is when the Flutie brothers were playing, and he was the drummer, playing without any shoes or socks. And it was great. Just, have a soda, right? Just stuff like
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
There was that element of him that was really fun. You just had to sort of gravitate toward the moment, because when he's playing football, he's all business. But I saw things in practice where he was just like a kid. He liked to have fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great, I mean, people are like, well, why would he attempt that drop kick? Because if you're on a Saturday afternoon and you're playing in your neighborhood, you're going to try it. Forget the fact that he's on national television and there might be 80,000 people in the crowd and there's something on the line. That makes no difference to him, because he was Peter Pan. He was just going to try something. And we were spoiled, I think, in the CFL to have him here. I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, he goes to Buffalo and it's like they're discovering, something they'd never seen before. We'd seen it not only the years in Toronto, but all those years in in Calgary, and before that for a brief time in Vancouver. It just, he was made for the CFL. Everything, later on years, the NFL quarterbacks are small, they're mobile. I mean, he was way ahead of his time. Unfortunately, the NFL still hadn't totally gravitated to his skill or his prototype of a player, but you see it all the time right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly do. Hey, Perry, let's talk about some brand new books on the market. First off, with the Eddie Olczyk book, one of my favorite Winnipeg Jets of all time, and it's mostly because the spirit, the character, the interview when the Jets actually left Winnipeg. But beating the odds is much, much more than just hockey and so forth. It's something that Eddie kind of gets right into with fighting cancer. Maybe a little bit of a preview of that, please.
Yeah, and Eddie and I had known each other when he was playing for the Leafs in the late 80s. I was covering horse racing. He had horses. We had talked about doing books several times. It just didn't go anywhere. And when he was going through his cancer battle, I wrote some stories about him for a thoroughbred journal. And when he was deemed to be cancer-free, I said, "You want to do the book?" He said, "Most definitely." Him and his wife wanted to do it. And it was really important. That the key part of the book is he wanted to tell people who are going through cancer, or for caregivers or caretakers, like, you're tougher than you realize. You can do it. You have it within inside of you. but the core support around was important for him and his wife, his kids, just everybody. And I think he wanted to be a spokesman and an ambassador for not only for colon cancer, but any type of cancer. So as I said to Mike just before, I dealt with it in my own family, and so I have a passion for it. When I wrote about Sandra Schmirler and her battle with cancer, I know what it's all about, though I haven't experienced it myself. So the opportunity to write the book and to share Eddie's story was very powerful for me. We talked about horse racing, broadcasting. He's an amazing handicapper, but really the essence of the book was really to be a beacon of hope for anybody who's going through cancer.
Looking at his story and as I said, when you look at probably, your subject and the subject matter of what the book's going to be. So when you think about the many attempts and you thought about doing a book with Eddie, so walk us through the progression of someone who's going to do a book like that, because it can't be, it's got to be different elements to it or it doesn't work. Obviously he has a lot of them. What was the immediate attraction to you about Eddie Olczyk to write a book like that?
It's because I knew him so well, and just because, again, that connection that we have in horse racing, and he's a great bettor. I'm a lousy one.
Yep.
Which was not very good for people who were following my picks when I was doing it for the Toronto Sun. That's another story, right? But just, every time I do a book, it's because that person appeals to me in some particular way. And whenever I ask somebody like Eddie, or even we'll get to like Nick, they always say to me, do you think anybody would care? And I say, you live your life in a fishbowl. Everyone else is looking into the fishbowl at you. You can never understand what they're seeing because you're in the moment. It's only after your career is over that you'll be able to maybe appreciate it. Both Eddie and Nick said they were happy they did the book because they realized in retrospect, they had a pretty good career. They did some really good things, but they're going through the moment and they just can't see it. So whenever I'm, making my pitch to some people, and I'm trying to tell them this is what the story is as I see it. And in Nick's case, he just said, well, if you can get a publisher, I'll do it. I like what you did with Eddie's book, and I got a publisher very quickly, a very prominent Toronto publisher, Simon & Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
And the book came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Nick's really, really happy about it. And he said to me, and I think he said in another interview, I recommend anybody to do this type of thing so they could sit back and realize what it is that they had done in their career that they couldn't really truly appreciate while they were going through it.
Yeah, I got a chance to work with Nick many years at Sportsnet at Hockey Central, and he was excellent and is a fabulous broadcaster. But the hockey career, the undrafted book, a lot of people don't understand that he never was selected to attend a team's training camp because he was picked in an entry draft and so forth. He kind of fought for everything he got throughout his junior career into the pros. Maybe a little thought process on Nick and what he was like working with in this chapter of it.
Well, the irony is that Eddie was drafted 3rd overall in '94, and that was Nick's year. Nick was just sort of starting out. It was only his next year and going forward that he became a fairly prominent goal scorer. But his year had passed, so he was invited to Philadelphia's training camp. Bobby Clark was the general manager. One of the scouts recommended Nick. Nick was the only one of the undrafted players that came to camp that got a contract because he showed enough as a player. And basically he came to that realization in his certainly in the pro career, he was going to have to fight to survive. And I'll give him credit for his, for being to adapt to a different role that was going to lead to an 8-year career. So it's funny, Eddie's 16 years in the NHL, 3rd overall, drafted by his hometown teams. Great story. Played for the U.S. Olympic team. And here's Nick, who just fell through the cracks. And yet at the end of the day, Nick, plays 8 years, wins a Stanley Cup. And the things that he did, just going out and promoting the cup and being out there in New York, that actually was the lead into someone from the NHL network contacting Sportsnet, which was just starting up, and saying, you should give this guy a look.
And you also bring up some, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Perry.
And furthermore to that, Nick was terrible that first year. He was absolutely brutal. And Scott Moore, who was running Sportsnet at the time, had already decided to fire him. and he had told a few people about it. Word got to a guy by the name of Bill Houston, who I'm sure both of you and all of us are familiar with, and had a
Sure,
column called
yeah.
Truth and Rumors. So he's
Yeah.
basically saying Nick Kypreos is about to be fired, and Nick's getting his car fixed one day. He picks up the paper, and there he finds out he's being fired. So he called up Scott Moore. And Scott Moore, because he hated Bill Houston so much, decided, okay, I'm going to give Nick a second chance, but I'm going to do it differently this time. Instead of doing live, I'll have him pre-record his segments. And Nick worked really hard at it, got better at it, and that led to a 20 years in the NHL as a broadcaster, including a few years with Hockey Day in Canada. And this is for a guy who was basically going to be fired after year one.
Just to screw Bill Houston.
That's right. Just to screw Bill Houston. So, Bill, if you're out there, you're the reason that Nick Kypreos lasted in broadcasting as long as he did. I hope he gave you a bottle of champagne or something.
We're in conversation with Perry Lefko here on Newstalk Sauga 960. Raw Mike Richards. You also bring up something too in the character of someone like Nick, who I really like. Anytime I got a chance, sparingly, to be around him, it's just one of those guys that I kind of gravitate to. He's just one of those good kind of people. I really like him quite a bit. But the one thing that he represents that you don't see a whole bunch, and you just sort of mentioned it, is your ability to change a role as an athlete, to be one kind of thing and become another and be successful at it. It's very, very rare, which is why, when I see statements by, Shanahan and I see Kyle Dubas talk about how they're going to be a harder team to play, how it's going to be a difficult team to play against. And I look at it and saying, well, then you're going to have to explain to me how that's going to happen, because in my experience with professional athletes, the changing the spots on a leopard is really hard to do. Usually if you're one kind of, especially now because they specialize from the age of, 10, you're one kind of athlete. I don't see them being a harder team. I don't see them changing the way in which they play the game, but that's what Nick did. But I think it's very, very rare.
Yeah. I mean, you have to want to do it, right? I mean, who wants to go from scoring goals and raising your stick and being a hero to a guy that's going to get into fights? And it's not a very glamorous role, although it seems that every NHL player, the ones that fight are the ones that are usually the most liked on the team because they're sacrificing. And the one thing that was different about Nick, and you hear a lot of these fighters, they got so wound up during the day thinking I'm going to be fighting at night. I'm going to be fighting some guys like bigger than me, right? And they couldn't sleep, or they had to use drugs or alcohol just to get through it. Nick never had that problem. He never got anxious about a fight. And, maybe that's a testament to the fact that adaptability, right? He didn't have to do all that stuff, but he accepted, if I'm going to make it in the NHL, I'm going to have to fight, but I'm not going to let it get to me to the point where it really affects my day-to-day life. And I think when you talk to Nick, he's just a very upbeat kind of guy. He's a lot of fun to talk to. We had a ton of fun doing the book. It was so much fun. And, I've been talking to him recently just about the experience of seeing the book. And he's so proud to see that book because it's, there's a guy never thought he was going to play in the NHL. Now he's had a book written about him. So he was great to work with.
Certainly was. Where can we get these books right now? Just so we have an idea. The Eddie Olczyk, the Nick Kypreos book, I guess locations, just to promote that side of it, Perry.
You should be able to get them in most bookstores. And if you can't, you can get them online for, Chapters, Indigo, Barnes and Noble. Eddie's book's just coming out now in paperback. After a year in hardcover, they go to paperback, although you can still get the hardcover version. It was a bestseller. I was so happy that it achieved the success it did. Eddie was the NHL ambassador for NHL Fights Cancer last year, and so that program is starting up again this month. I can't say enough about that book. Just personally, it meant something to me. All these books mean something, but that one, particularly because of the cancer element. And Nick's book just means a lot to me, just because, as I said to Mike before, we had so much fun doing that book. And I'd like to think that with most books that I do, I have fun with it, right? It's a job, but I do it because this is what I wanted to do when I was growing up. I knew I wanted to become a sports writer, and I knew I wanted to become write books, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do it. So, to me, it's like I'm going to do a marathon. I'm getting ready for it. When it's over, I did it, but I knew what I was doing, and I hope the people that I worked with on these books, they appreciated what I was trying to tell them beforehand, because hopefully in the end result is it worked out for everybody.
Well. This is Victor Newman, and I thought, listening to your goddamn sob story, I would jump in right now and say, who the hell do you think you are, all right? Don't tell me the only Nick you know is Kypreos. I know you've been coming to the ranch to visit Nikki, and let me tell you something. There's no way in hell that you're going to take her away from me. First of all, you don't make enough money. I know where you work. I've seen the paycheck. It's goddamn embarrassing. Why don't you sell oranges underneath the gardener? You listen to me right now. The next book you're going to do is going to be on the great Victor Newman. All right? You got that? And you're going to write the great things that I can do. The size of my thighs. The number of push-ups I can do naked. All right? The things people need to know, not about football players and guys who skate and spit. All right? I'm Victor Newman. You got that?
That was awesome, man. I don't know. That was, I don't know about the part about doing push-ups naked, but other than that, it was great, man.
Well, Perry, I got to tell you what a nice visit we had here this morning. We can do this on a regular basis. I mean, there's so much still that I'd like to talk about. There's so many things that you have written about, including our association that we've had, which has been incredible with Woodbine. Jim Lawson comes on, who's just man, I'll tell you, the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, but he's a lousy handicapper too. Okay, he's terrible. Okay,
he says that. He goes, "You don't want to be taking my picks." I go,
He has admitted it. Yes.
"Yeah, shouldn't you be more qualified? I mean, shouldn't you?" He goes, "No. You." And our buddy Ron Gearking, do you know Ron at all?
very well. Steve
Yes.
Buffrey, all those clowns
Yes.
at Woodbine there, But this, by the way, this weekend's the Breeders' Cup, and Eddie's going to be on TV for 2 days giving out all his picks. I have yet to see a better handicapper than Eddie Olczyk. Although Ron Gearking, he's very, very good too.
Yeah, came from my hometown, played hockey with his brother Rob, so I know that family very well. You know what? We'll do this again, Perry. If you got the time, boy, we'd love to talk to you again.
I'd love to do it, and hopefully this time we'll get it done right, because I'll complain to the BlackBerry people, okay?
Perry, you take care, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks,
Be
Barry.
well, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
That is Perry Lefko joining us here this morning, and fun and informative, as I knew it would be. Once again, the books Undrafted, that is Nick's story, and Eddie Olczyk, Beating the Odds. These are fantastic books written by a great guy, as you just heard this morning. That was awesome. Couldn't do that enough.